Great. All right. Well, hello. My name is Jeree Thomas. I am the policy director with the Campaign for Youth Justice in Washington, D.C. We are a national initiative dedicated to ending the prosecution, sentencing, and incarceration of youth under 18 in the adult criminal justice system. It is my absolute pleasure to be here with Kathy Wright from the New Jersey Parents Caucus, Duval Ricks, a New Jersey Youth Caucus member and a New Jersey Parent Caucus Youth Advocate, and David Crosby, a New Jersey Youth Caucus member and the New Jersey Parent Caucus's Director of Youth Policy. So today we are going to discuss the significant issue of youth being held in solitary confinement in adult facilities and how this issue disproportionately impacts youth of color and youth with mental health needs. I'm going to briefly discuss how this issue takes shape nationally. Kathy will discuss what's going on in New Jersey. Mr. Duval Ricks will discuss this as how it impacts young people individually. And David will wrap it up for us for what's going on currently in New Jersey around this issue. So I'll start by talking about the national perspective. So across the country, youth under 18 are being held in adult jails and prisons every day. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, in 2016, approximately 950 youth were held in adult prison on any given day, and 3,700 youth were held in adult jails on any given day. In most states across the country, youth under 18 are held in adult jails if they have been charged as adults. And unfortunately, this practice is very harmful. It's particularly harmful because youth in adult jails generally don't have the same access to education, treatment, or developmentally appropriate programming. So when youth are in adult facilities, their treatment is governed not only by state law, but by federal law. So in 2003, Congress enacted the Prison Rape Elimination Act, which sought to reduce sexual and physical abuse in prisons. And in 2012, the U.S. Department of Justice adopted standards for implementing the Prison Rape Elimination Act. And one of those standards is the Youthful Inmate Standard. So the Youthful Inmate Standard requires that young people who are housed with adults are sight and sound separated from adults when they're in their housing unit. And so what happens in many places is because the sight and sound separation is required under federal law, many places end up actually isolating or placing in solitary confinement young people under 18 who are in adult facilities. But as I mentioned, this practice is very harmful. And in fact, in 2016, President Obama banned the use of prolonged solitary confinement of juveniles that are held in federal prisons. Mm-hmm. And a little bit earlier than that, the rapporteur on torture actually said that nationally or internationally, that the use of solitary confinement, particularly against juveniles for prolonged periods of time, needs to be banned. And so what we know is that placing young people in adult facilities is harmful for a number of reasons, solitary confinement being an extremely important reason that folks really need to learn more about. It's like I said, it's considered torture. And so that's one of the reasons why New Jersey Parent Caucus wanted to write a report so that folks could learn more about it. So with that national perspective, I'd like to turn it over to Kathy to talk about the new report that the New Jersey Parent Caucus just issued, and more about what's going on in New Jersey.
Well, thank you so much, Jeree. And I want to welcome everyone who has been able to take the time to join us on this Facebook Live post. One of the things that we are just extremely happy about is continuing to build a level of awareness about what youth and young adults in the state of New Jersey who are incarcerated come in contact when they're put in solitary confinement. And so one of the things that is critical, I think, for us to be able to look at, and that's one of the reasons why I think the report is so valuable, is that not only is it an issue around solitary confinement, but all of the other interconnected pieces. So, for example, 73% of the kids that the young adults that are held in solitary confinement that we were able to evaluate based on this particular report were youth of color. And so when you start to look at that kind of data, it becomes very interesting. Like, and it's something I think that the legislators really need to take the time to stand up and start to look at some of the data. It's interesting because we have the we're lucky enough to be able to speak to a lot of the kids who are currently incarcerated and currently have been waived to the adult prison system. And so yesterday I spoke to one of the kids who is currently in New Jersey State Prison. He was actually transferred from New Jersey State Prison from Northern State Prison because of the air conditioning that broke down, allegedly. But when he was in Northern State, he was in solitary. So when he called in, I spoke to him and I spoke to his mom, and he said, well, I'm almost finished. I had to do 361 days in solitary because they found marijuana on me. Now, and keep in mind, he is now 19. So when he started the solitary confinement, he was in fact 18. And when he initially went to Northern State, he had just turned 17. And so one of the things we need to think about is, what is the goal of solitary confinement? It's inhumane. It is it's just incomprehensible. I mean, I stutter when I start to think about that. And particularly when you talk about kids who are struggling with mental health challenges, right? So we've even had some lawsuits in the state of New Jersey where the New Jersey Juvenile Justice Commission was sued on behalf of 2 children that were held in solitary confinement. One who was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and by the time they had taken him out, he had inflicted cuts all over his body. So one of the things I think we need to be aware of is we need to be aware of the impact of this. We need to make sure that we are speaking with our legislators. Last year, and David and Deval are going to talk about this more, but last year, Lesniak did in fact have a bill that would have protected youth who are now in adult prisons from solitary confinement. But Governor Christie vetoed the bill. So right now, if you are 15 in New Jersey, and you are waived to the adult prison system, you do not have the same level of protections that you would have if you were in the juvenile justice system. So if you were in Jamesburg, Bordentown, wherever it may be, S 2003 has those parameters. But if you are waived and you are 16, in a lot of ways, you are no longer a young adult. You lose that, even though I like to believe I'm 16, whether I'm in Northern State or Jamesburg. I'm not sure how that works, but unfortunately, that's the way in which New Jersey looks at that. So we only have a few minutes, so I'm going to turn it over to Deval and David. They're going to talk a little bit about the impact of that and what they've been able to see, and give us the youth perspective, which is, I think, the perspective that we really need to be able to understand and get underneath this issue and end this. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. My name's Deval. I was first incarcerated in 2007, just turning the age of 17. And I was incarcerated from 2007 to 2016. I was housed in a lot of prisons. I was transferred around due to disciplinary issues, but as Miss Kathy stated, once you're waived up into the adult system, the first thing they tell you going through the adult processing center craft is that you're no longer a juvenile. It doesn't matter how old you are, what age, what mental conditions you have. Once you're in the adult system, you're viewed and treated as a regular adult. But they keep you segregated whether you did anything wrong or not until you legally turn 18. And for me, they kept me in solitary. 2 weeks after I turned 18, I was thrown onto the maximum gang unit tier. My roommate was locked up longer than I've been born for murder charges. Like that's the type of environment that they put you in. Like it's no type of help, whether you have mental issues or not. But from each different prison, their go-to fix for everything is solitary confinement. And is like as Miss Kathy stated, with data, with research and everything that's been done, not just in New Jersey, but all across the nation, it doesn't help you. In most cases, it turns people worse than what they were before they went in there, whether it's hurting themselves or becoming violent towards the people around them.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you actually look at it, just preconditioning to making you worse and not giving you like stripping you of all chance you have of correcting your behavior, becoming a better person as that you're put in prison for in the first place. Like they take all rehabilitative measures away from you. I don't know exactly how much time we have left, so
You're going to turn it over to David?
yes, and then if we still have time, then I could talk some more, but I don't want to not give him a chance to talk. I want to make sure everybody speaks.
Okay. We're at 6:48, Jeree.
Okay.
David?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure you could hear. So do you want to add anything to the discussion that you want to share?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I wasn't sure we were doing. Yeah, so the idea is to further the agenda really like we have to have actionable plan. The idea is to, you after composing a list of our senators along with our local representatives um, in the US House throughout New Jersey, as long as we can maintain the left leaning policies that they've adopted within the last congressional cycle, and really in the last 2 years of surge in New Jersey, particularly for issues such as criminal justice reform, marijuana policy, ideas, things like that, that all kind of tie into one another, um, benefiting communities throughout the United States. So the idea in New Jersey now that we can really see it is a push with Phil Murphy as the new governor, push to start implementing some policies and getting some things done in regards to our laws, our civil laws to civilians. Um, right now, currently, they're caught up with the budget. Um, he's still dealing with some issues getting his budget and platform for his budget across. Once that's completed, we could probably see something around next January. I would predict around next January to see some real action on some criminal justice reform, and within that time, the idea is to get out to all of our senators within the state if possible, and all of our representatives within the state if possible, and just gauge their ideas on some of these issues. And if there can be a bill passed, I'm sure that we can find a senator or a representative to sponsor such bill. There have been previous senators, like you mentioned before, who have tried to get such legislation passed, whether it be with a veto or not having majority in the House or the Senate of New Jersey. But right now is probably one of the best chances we'll have in the next two cycles, governor cycles at least, probably
Okay.
to get something passed. I mean, if you look at historically how things swing, we're probably going to lose one of those positions in the next cycle. whether it be the House or the governor. If we look back at our policies in regards to the New Jersey Supreme Court, there has been a lean to the left, but albeit some things not
Yeah.
served from such. There still is a very heavily right influence in New Jersey, as you know, we're a pretty wealthy state, full of a lot of business people and entrepreneurs as well. So there definitely is a conservative influence. But if there is any better time, I would say by the next congressional cycle in January would probably be the best time to really push forward some initiatives, at least to try to get a senator or a representative to sponsor a bill of such nature. That would this is the best time. This is the best time with the last race all brand in a sense, if you will. So at this time, now it's definitely on top. And I think that reform passed with because it's a hot issue right now.
I'm not sure what that noise is.
Yeah, sorry. I think there's some noise. Okay, there we go. So something just to add on to what David has said. So the bill that was vetoed was S51, I believe.
Right.
But there was a bill introduced this year, Assembly Bill 314. And just as with S51, it's really focused on trying to limit the use of solitary confinement. And it specifically speaks about limiting it for young adults, so for people under 21 who are considered a vulnerable population in an adult prison. And so there is actually legislation out there that folks who are listening or others can look into and call their representatives and senators about to push it forward.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, my phone screen said it got too hot and it cut off on me.
Oh, that might have been what we were hearing.
Oh, okay, that's probably what we heard. So the only, one question I do have is that, given that we know that Obama, right, passed the order such that kids, juveniles, or actually not juveniles, but youth and young adults who are in federal prison cannot be held in solitary confinement. Why does that not trickle down to our states?
So the state and federal prison systems are separate. So a majority of people in the country are held in state-run prisons. And so those states have the ability to do, whatever they want with their prisons.
Right.
And what happens is when there are federal laws that are passed, the federal laws like the Prison Rape Elimination Act that I mentioned, those actually, all they do is make it so that that states are eligible for funding. So, if a state doesn't follow the rules, they don't get in trouble, they just get less funding. So that's why there are some states that don't follow the Prison Rape Elimination Act, and then they wouldn't get that money for it. But generally, states do have the power to set the parameters for their prisons.
Okay, all right. So in other words, I guess for states, our response is to if they put something in place whereby if they don't comply, right, they will lose some level of funding or money that would normally come to them. But as we know, because of PREA, New Jersey doesn't follow that, and we know that, right? Because we hear directly from the kids who say, "Oh, I'm in here, and there's like a guy in here that's 35, right?" So we know that the sight and sound doesn't work. So my thing is, I'm not sure that works.
They only follow it in the sense that they make you watch a little 5-minute video and sign a paper stating that they educated you on the PREA Act. But if you and it's not even just toward juveniles, if anyone goes to a CO and says they're uncomfortable with their roommate, unless there's physical harm evident to you, they're not going to move you away from that person.
Right.
So like we discussed this before in a group chat before. It's not just about, okay, here goes the rules, you guys have to follow it. We have to come up with a system to where there's an outside third party oversight to it,
Right.
who's biased, who doesn't have motives or agendas with either side, is just a neutral eye of the thing.
Right.
Right.
So I think we're at our final minute based on a little ping from Harmeet. So I don't know if Kathy or Duval or David, you guys have any last words?
All good here.
Great.
Yeah, unfortunately, I see that I missed a little bit, but I look forward to the next one.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is something we could continue to talk about, because I'm interested in us trying to figure out who we need to have, which politicians, right? Like,
This will be an amazing way to get a politician to sit down with us, because they don't have to go out of their office. They don't have to take a lot of time out of their agenda.
That's a great point.
yeah,
We'll have to consider that for next time.
Dave, we need to make that happen, because
This is very convenient for everybody.
yeah,
So it shouldn't be that easy for them to just turn it down without a good enough reason.
you think they'd be open? You think politicians would be open to that, David?
I think that, honestly, to create a separate entity, that might be, that's a push. But to attach some more legislation onto a bill that's already out there,
Right.
waiting to be voted on, that is a lot easier than starting from scratch.
Oh, okay.
We'd really have to find somebody who's this is an issue near and dear to them. I mean, this is essentially how politicians are influenced.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got to find one that has this idea or some. You know, we have to do a little more research on our politicians within New Jersey to find out who these issues strike home with the most.
Right. Okay.
And then from there, then you spawn out from there. But
Okay.
you're not going to go to the congressional people who maybe, they're in Fort Lee or whatever, and they're more fixated on transportation and income from that, maintain relationships with union guys, or things like that. We have to look. We have to look within certain areas to see where this. Obviously, inner cities, of course. But if we could get something, and maybe potentially Morris County, that would be amazing.
Okay.
Areas like that. We would hope that we could get Essex, those counties
Right.
on board with things like that. But it's going to be your Morris counties, your Bergen, and your other counties. To try and gauge where those politicians are, and honestly, those ones are probably going to be the ones that are farthest reaching from it.
Okay.
But again,
So
child issue, and we did the Voting Act as very unique to our state. We were the first one to do such. So, which was passed by a conservative governor and conservative House and Senate. They got a Voting Act passed. You would imagine we could get some reform on for other, for children.
Okay.
all right.
All right.
Well, thank everyone for coming, and for those who are able to tune in. I hope we can continue this conversation very soon in the future, because this is an incredibly important issue. But thanks, everyone.
Yes. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you as well.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.